All right, ladies and gentlemen, how's it going? Welcome to American LFC. I am Nate. Today we are talking about West Ham United losing in the Premier League to Liverpool Football Club, as well as Leicester City losing in the Carabao Cup to Liverpool Football Club. Ladies and gentlemen, who are we talking to today?
This is Eli. We're also going to touch briefly on the Europa League game.
Great, let's talk about that too.
Okay.
On LASK?
LASK.
Great.
Cool. Do you want to start us off?
Yeah, sure. I guess the first thing we should talk about is Media Watch.
Yeah. So, a little late, but it came out, I guess, a week and a half ago now, that Klopp turned down the Germany job prior to the appointment of Nagelsmann.
Yeah, and what do you think that means?
Well, I think his current contract runs till 2026, right? I hope we have a good season and he decides to tack, another couple of years on.
What's the percentage do you think that's going to happen?
That he tacks more time on?
Yeah.
It's tough to say, but my gut tells me it's probably pretty low because he has said, managing Germany would be kind of a dream job, right? And I don't think it'll line up to do the 2026 World Cup unless he leaves us early. Because our season would end in May, June, and then the World Cup I think starts in July. So I find it hard to believe he'd only want a month with the team before taking them to a World Cup.
Right. That's also like the idea of that would also be that Nagelsmann gives up his position in 2 years.
Well, I think Nagelsmann's contract only runs through Euros 2024.
Oh, so it's like a 9-month appointment?
Yeah. I think that's what they call a probationary period.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. It's interesting. I'm not sure why Nagelsmann took the job.
Well, was he managing a club or was he...
No, because he had just left Bayern Munich not too long ago.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Tuchel took over for him.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I think heading Bayern Munich is a difficult job though. So I don't think anybody should look their nose down at him personally.
Yeah. I mean, it is a tough job because you're kind of in a farmers league, but you're expected to do really well against Europe, which is difficult because you spend, a large percentage of your season playing probably substandard opponents compared to what you come up against in Europe,
Totally. Yeah. But either way, Klopp has continued his allegiance, I guess, would you say, or commitment to Liverpool Football Club, which is great. Long may it continue. Yeah, I agree with you. Hopefully he signs on an extension. I think that I think he could do it if it seems to be the right time. Like I think it would be hard for him to leave. Let's say this is clearly his rebuild, right? Like he wants to get to the zenith again, right? So I think it would be difficult if it's like to a point where we're one step away and it's just like, oh man, we were so close to either winning the league or the Champions League again, and we just need to go one more time with maybe a single edition or just like Szoboszlai will be 26, or I'm sorry, Szoboszlai will be 24, McAllister will be 26, Trent Alexander-Arnold will be 26. Like there are large portions of our team that will be coming into their prime this season that we're expecting Klopp to leave. Like, so to me, it's like, okay, well, if you get a reasonable replacement for Mo Salah and Virgil van Dijk, there's a reasonable argument that there's 3 or 4 more years of top tier football that could be played, that could be enticing to Klopp because he's putting in the hard graft to get it and to make the team.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see. hopefully hopefully he stays. What's your percentage that he stays after 2026?
I don't know. I mean, you've made a pretty compelling argument about why he would potentially do it. I think it comes down to kind of where he's at mentally, right? Because that's got to be one of the toughest jobs in sport, especially after, the run he's had and everything he's won so far. It's like, well, do you keep going and really, I don't want to say it's weird, right? Because I guess it's not weird. He's already one of the greatest managers we've had. But, do you want to stick around, especially with, the names you just mentioned coming into their really prime performative years at that point? And just
right, Ryan Gravenberch, 24.
Right.
Curtis Jones, 26.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like the young player, like Harvey Elliott, 25. It's just the thing is like it's clearly this second round. I mean Cody Gakpo is like a year older than he's like 24, right? So it's like which is wild because he plays like a much older player. So it's like there are a lot of young players that will be coming into their prime ages at this time. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
I think there's a 60% chance he stays for 2 years on.
Okay, I like it.
All right, what do we think about this past weekend? West Ham United. You want to talk about them?
Yeah, let's do it.
They lost.
West Ham did lose. It's... I mean, we're jumping ahead a little bit to what happened with Leicester today, but, it's the... starting off a little slow, but then growing into the game.
Yeah. This is something that has repeatedly happened to us throughout the season. I would say every single game, except for the Chelsea game, we have started slow. We've been the second to score.
Except Villa, right? That's the one caveat, because I was just looking back. We beat Villa 3-0.
And we scored pretty early in that game? I don't remember.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, I can take a look really quickly, but either way, just to piggyback on what you were saying is like, yes, I couldn't agree more. We came out of the blocks sort of like a iceberg, slowly drifting through the northern Atlantic. And West Ham did not. They came out like a speed racer, and they showed up to Anfield ready to play a football match. I'm not sure what we were doing. The first 10 to 12 minutes were super sloppy Joe. We repeatedly gave the ball away. I love McAllister. I think he's going to be an incredible player for the team. Just to reiterate again, he's 24 now, so that I think I said it before, but that puts him at 26 with Klopp, right? Going on 27. Again, peak age. He's incredible. He's absolutely incredible, but what he's not is a 6. And that became very apparent in the first 12 minutes of this game. Yeah. I mean, we were just, it's just a repeated issue. And we're going to have to come up with a solution for it. And the solution has to be, I think, like we can't, and we'll get to it today, and the last game, we'll talk about it as well. We went down first in both of those games, right? West Ham could have been up 2-0 in the first 12 minutes against us. They just had two absolutes. One was an absolute sitter by Antonio that he just totally... I think we can bleep that out. Sorry, Eli.
Sure.
And then the second was an absolute world-class save from the best goalkeeper on the planet. And without those two things, we would have been down 2-0 in the first 12 minutes. And rightfully so, to be honest. We played very poorly.
Yeah.
And but it's not all doom and gloom, right? It could have been worse. I would say that we rightfully earned a penalty in the 16th minute against the run and play.
Yeah.
Would you say that?
Yeah, I mean, Luis Diaz doing what he does best, right? Being a tricky customer, running at the defense into the box, right? And he cuts across the defender throws a lazy leg out, and boom, Mo gets to do his thing.
Yeah, and Mo scores a penalty kick for the first time in a while, which is great. So that will add to his confidence. I think that you had mentioned something to me about he has a pretty successful run of goal contributions, if I'm not mistaken. What was that?
Yes, it is. As of West Ham, it was 13 games in a row with a goal contribution.
Great, yeah. So we'll see how that goes this weekend if that continues. Hopefully it does.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean that's incredible. He is such a talented player. We were so fortunate to have him. Since we're sort of talking about the future of the club, do you see him leaving next summer?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he is just like a fitness beast, right? Because I think he won the lactate test in preseason. Now that superhuman James Milner is gone.
I believe Dominic Soboslai also, they finished together.
Oh, they tied it, right? Yeah. But the reason I mention that is it's kind of like, well, I'm sure the stats folks will be looking at it pretty closely this year to make sure we don't have a repeat of kind of the Fabinho Henderson just falling off a cliff, when they were past it. But again, right. He's a different class player than those two.
Yeah, I think the statistics will bear out with however much he runs, at the speeds that he's running at, the goal contributions that he's going to have across the season. I think that he's going to have – he will at least play another 3 years at the highest level if he wants to.
Right.
The question is whether he wants to.
Right.
But he seems like the type of person that has the personality that's like, no, I'm going to stick around and I'm going to win more trophies, and I'll go to Saudi Arabia when I'm 38.
Mm-hmm.
Like what he should do, probably. Because he's 31? Is that right?
Sounds right, yeah.
So he'll be going on 32 during this season, so 32. I mean, we're talking about Messi just moved to the MLS at 36.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that many listeners, I know thousands of our listeners are going to say, but Nate, Mohamed Salah is not Messi. And I agree with you. He's not. But they are built very similarly. They play a relatively similar style of football as far as how many yards or how many kilometers they're running the game, about their pressures, about when they choose to run and all that sort of stuff. I just think Cristiano Ronaldo's 39 going on 80, and he's putting away goals still in Saudi Arabia. I know it's a totally different league, but I mean, it wasn't even 12 months ago he was still at United and was their leading goal scorer. So I just think that the bodies, with the technology, the nutrition, the sports science, sports medicine, I just don't think 31 is as old as it used to be.
Right.
So I hope he doesn't go. And I'm sorry, I know that we got very distracted, but it's such a interesting conversation to pose. It's just like whether. Well,
I mean, to play devil's advocate though, is there a argument for saying, because is his contract done next summer?
So this coming summer, he'll have 1 year left on his contract.
Okay, so there, just again to play devil's advocate, is there an argument for offloading him next summer for, upwards, I would say between 60 and 80 million probably, and then clearing that his 350,000 pounds a week off the wage bill?
Yeah, I think the Moneyball would absolutely say that's a great idea. I think let's see how he finishes this season. He just had 13 straight Premier League games with goal contributions. or games in general with goal contributions.
All games.
I just don't think Moises Caicedo just went. A defensive midfielder just went for 115 million pounds, and we're talking about selling our most prolific goal scorer for a generation for 80.
Yeah.
How do you replace the goals?
Yeah.
I know that I'm posing that question to you. You're the one that's more skeptical about it, and I've always said Jared Bowen.
I mean, spoiler alert, right? But after his performance against us on the weekend, I'd say that's
this whole season. To be honest, they've been playing really well. West Ham. I think Bowen has been really great. I think he recently came back from injury through the summer too, from preseason. So he's just catching up too.
Well,
he's Premier League proven.
I mean, we're kind of jumping ahead here, but also. Ben Doak and Harvey Elliott finished the Leicester game today at right wing. And he probably should have scored, I think, in stoppage time or right there at the end of regular time. But there was kind of a calamity. No, Harvey Elliott.
Copy.
But there was a goal line calamity that got it cleared off, you know.
Okay, not to jump too far ahead with that too, but I just don't think Harvey Elliott has the pace to be a winger.
Okay.
I think it's going to actually be interesting to see where he lands in this team. It seems like he's playing an 8, pushing into our 10 system, but and I think he's okay at that. Mm-hmm. He's good at pressures on the ball, and he is good at recovery. And he is good at maintaining possession, but he's not much of a goal scorer. Mm-hmm. That's borne out by the facts. I mean, just how many goals has he scored? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, this season I don't, because the one against whoever it was
Villa.
Right? Was it Villa? It ended up being an own goal.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, sorry, we have really got going there. Yeah, we did. But
so
that's
back
okay.
on
That's
track
what this
here.
is about.
So Mo scores the penalty in the 16th minute, and then for the next 20 minutes, we're seeing more of the Liverpool that we're used to, right? Like that high intensity, good progressive play, you know. And I thought that was probably our best spell in a first half we've had of the games that I've seen so far this season.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. So it's like, that was Curtis Jones, Szoboszlai, and McAllister in the midfield. And again, I'll keep coming back to the fact that Mac's not a 6. But I do think that Curtis Jones is incredible. I think that he's turning into a legitimate talent. I think that he had a great game. I think that he continues to have great games. I think it's fantastic that we've got a second Scouser on the team, and I think that he probably look. A lot of people have frequently and recently been very harsh on Curtis Jones for previous performances, but I will say he's like 22, 23.
Yep,
I think
22.
He's 23.
Yeah,
he's 22. Right? We've grown up with him. He has grown up with us.
Yeah.
Right? So the difference is we just bought Szoboszlai for 60 million pounds. And he is absolutely a generational talent. I am not comparing the two.
Yeah.
But they are the same age, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm saying we just bought Szoboszlai and he's hit the ground running and he's fantastic. If we would have bought Curtis Jones and brought him in and he started the exact same way, we'd be saying the same thing about him. Yep. We'd be like, this kid is incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right, and it's the problem is we've seen the low points in form, the injury struggles, but yeah, you're right. If we went to the market and brought in a 22-year-old with the number of minutes he has in the Premier League, you know, we'd be singing his praises right now. Everyone would be.
Yeah, look, and look. It's very early for Gravenberch, and he's got a long time to get into this team and stuff like that. But you would say that argumentatively they're pretty close to being. They're the same age, relatively. Maybe one more season of senior football Curtis Jones has. But actually, I don't know if that's true. Gavin Birch started at such a young. He was the youngest player to premiere for the first team for Ajax in the history of Ajax.
Yeah,
Ryan
that's pretty
Gravenberch,
incredible,
right? So that's unbelievably impressive. So we'll see how Gravenberch makes his way through the team. I think he's going to be really great. But I would say we were all incredibly excited to sign him, but 3.5 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I would feel the same way about Curtis Jones if he came from Ajax.
Yeah.
If we signed him from Bayern Munich, people would be pooping their pants.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was a distraction. I apologize.
It's okay.
That was that diatribe started with the idea of us actually maintaining control possession and recycling possession and control. Mm-hmm. And playing what appears to be the newest brand of Liverpool football, which is suffocation. Mm-hmm. And we did that for about 25 minutes. And it seems like West Ham was able to analyze that, accept what it was, and recalibrate their own position in the game. Mm-hmm. And for the last 5 minutes of the half, started to make way.
Yeah.
Which is where they ended.
And I mean, credit
scored.
to them, right, is professional athletes being able to make that on-the-field adjustment without having had a halftime team talk from the coaching staff to say, hey, this is what we're seeing. You know, they saw it on the field. They communicated what they needed to, and they did make an adjustment. And Bowen scores in the 44th minute.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is like a moment of defensive frailty. It seems like Robbo plays on Robertson. I don't think he plays on Bowens. I think he plays on
Kufal, right?
Who
had the assist, right?
Assist, yeah. And so it was a momentary lapse of judgment. He was much deeper than the defensive line.
Yeah.
I think if Virgil van Dijk was playing this game, that doesn't happen. But I would say that West Ham deserved it, to be totally honest.
I'm about 99% sure Van Dijk did play the West Ham game.
If that's the case, then it shouldn't have happened.
Because I
Let me
think
double check. I'm super sorry because it's like we just watched the game today and trying to recalibrate.
I know. I've got 3 games in my head that we've got to cover.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I was like,
because I'm pretty sure it's he basically dives in front of Van Dijk's foot to make the header.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely correct. Apologies. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I mean, actually, full disclosure to all of our audience. Be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you very much. Leave comments, ask us questions. Let us know if you think Mo Salah is going to stay through next season. And also let us know if you think Jurgen Klopp will sign a contract extension. But we did have a micro technical difficulties with our episode that we did right after the West Ham game. So we are juggling a little bit of stuff right now, which has totally happened. Totally happens. It's we're just starting up. We're growing pains. We're getting the lay of the land. So apologies. Van Dijk was in that game, and Jared Bowen actually, I think, basically headbutted him in the foot to win the header. Yeah. But needless to say, West Ham grew into the game the last 5 minutes of the second half. And it was a thoroughly deserved goal because there were large portions, well, not large portions, there were portions of the first half where they were totally dominant.
Liverpool you're saying?
I was saying West Ham.
West Ham was.
In the first 10 minutes, the last 5 minutes, they were really finding their footing. And also, let's be really clear, West Ham is a good team. I know that they had a blip of a season last year. I know that people were writing them off. I know that people were saying with like 10 games left in the season that they were going to get relegated because they were battling for 17th place. But they were also still fighting in Europe. They won a cup. You know what I mean? They won a European trophy last year, and by the end of the season, they were nowhere close to the relegation zone. So I know people were hating on Moyes and saying that he's absolute crap, but it's just not true. They're a well-drilled team, and they have big, burly dudes, and they have technicians, and they can play football.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we went into halftime 1-1.
Yeah.
So technically in our outline at halftime, we've got written that we're talking about the LASK game.
Yeah.
Is that how you pronounce it? LASK?
Well, I think it's Linz, right? Because it's the city in Austria, but then just the
I haven't got a clue.
Abbreviation is LASK. But I think I heard one of the commentators refer to it as Linz. Okay. So yeah, we'll spend a couple minutes on our start in the Europa League this year. Again, I mean, we sound like a broken record, but Liverpool were off to kind of a slow start. But credit where it's due, right? The goal they scored was an absolute worldie. You know, it seemed like that was a rehearsed set piece with the ball coming in outside of the 18 and then their dude just drilling it through several bodies. You know, Kelleher sees it late, can't react in time. We could go round and round whether Allison would make that save or not. But it was just a heck of a shot, and there's, you know, nothing you can do about that sometimes. You know, it's just the way the ball bounces.
Yeah, I mean, I would point out that I feel like the defensive duties of Gravenberch could have left a little bit to be desired. I think if you watch it back, he's supposed to be closing down the man who's striking the ball, who's shooting, and I don't know. I don't know if there are other more experienced Liverpool players that would have a different strategy or different reaction to closing down that space.
Mm-hmm.
But that
and
means
also
that I
just,
agree with you.
You know, putting your body on the line and diving in front of the shot, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly. That's sort of what I'm saying. It felt a little half-hearted when he like turned his body away from the shot. You know what I mean? I was like, you could just run through it. You know. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I don't think Allison saves that goal.
Yeah.
I just don't. I think it just came through too many bodies and it was just seen too late. I think that there were just so many human beings in there. I also don't think that dude could hit that shot again in 99 chances.
No, probably not.
Not with the number of people that were in front of him.
Right.
Like, I think it was like, it's literally going through legs.
Yeah.
Like, to get there. It's like, okay, well, what are you going to do?
Right.
Nothing. So, but, I mean, after that goal went in, I think it was relatively early. Like, I can't remember the exact time.
I think it was the 14th minute. It's not in the notes, but that's what is stuck in the
definitely teen minute situation. And I'm trying to see if I can find out really quickly. Yeah, the 14th minute. You're right.
And then, you know, I don't feel like we grow into that one super well. There was kind of a spurt there late on in regulation of the first half. The Linz keeper makes just an absolute amazing save before halftime.
Yeah.
And it's kind of one of those things, right? You know, now that I've got 2/3 of a season of coaching high school, and those are the kind of moments you seize on during your halftime team talk. It's like, hey, if it wasn't for that world-class save, you know, this would be a tie game right now. Go out there, keep it up, apply the pressure. We're still in this, you know, type of thing. And I think that gets us into the second half, and they did start so much better right away in the second half. And then I think I don't have the minute written down, but the first round of subs, you know, made a huge difference. If you can check who that was real quick.
Yeah, I have everything, the timeline. Let's see if the timeline will tell us where the substitutions...
But I feel like, while you're looking that up, I feel like Klopp has kind of learned his lesson.
Okay, where did we stop off?
You know, I'm not quite sure where it froze. Oh, we were looking at the substitutions.
Right, in the 61st minute, Dominic Szoboszlai comes in for Ben Doak. Alexis McAllister comes in for Wataru Endo, and Joe Gomez comes in for Stefan Bajcetic.
Yeah. I mean, again... It was
5 minutes after we scored a penalty kick.
Oh, right. So it's again Soboslai, right? Just an absolute baller.
Yeah, he's incredible. He's absolutely incredible.
And then I think it's a pretty dominant display from that point forward, right?
Yeah, we
and
literally
then
scored 2 minutes later.
Yeah, and then Mo scores again. I think like the
Meg's the
88th or
keeper.
something. Meg's the keeper. Yep.
Yeah, I'm trying to see. He comes in on the 74th minute. Ryan Gravenberch goes off with an apparent injury, which ended up not being the case, just cramp.
Yep.
And it was a pretty good European day at the races, I would say, for an incredible football club.
Yeah. So two quick, interesting stats. That was Mo's 42nd goal in Europe as a Premier League player, which ties him with some French dude named Thierry Henry. May have heard of him.
For the most, for an English Premier League player in Europe, right?
Yep.
Right.
And then the second stat is that puts Klopp at 50 wins in Europe, which takes him to the top spot of Liverpool managers, one ahead of Rafa.
Interesting. Well, I guess both of those guys are pretty good at what it is that they do, and maybe the world will remember them.
Yeah.
I think Mo Salah has a lot more to give. That's why I'm saying it was like, I mean, I guess I could see it going either way if he stays or if he goes this coming summer. But I feel like he probably just wants another shot at a Champions League.
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, I think we'll get it too, right? And unfortunately, this kind of got lost in the recording that we did Monday after the snafu. But, I feel like we have a strong shot at winning Europa this year. But I also think, I mean, we're six games into the Premier League, but it feels like we have another shot at being title contenders, again. And it'll come down to the last 1-2 games of the season to determine if it's, us or City.
Mm-hmm.
But we're kind of skipping ahead there. So I think, he'll definitely get his shot again soon. And Klopp knows how to win in Europe, Yeah,
it just depends on whether he sticks around. That's the only question, right? And also, that's just to say, it's like, look, he's got 42 goals in Europe, making him the tied most prolific English Premier League player in European competition. And this was his first game in the Europa League. We have the full season yet to play. And I think we both agree that we have a strong chance of winning it.
Yeah. For sure.
In fact, I think we would argue, argumentatively speaking, if we don't win it and we don't win the Prem, it's probably not a good enough season.
Yeah.
It's probably a failed season. I
mean, was it Paisley that said Liverpool exists to win trophies?
I mean, I think the thing is, getting fourth can't just be good enough right now, right? The thing is, there were clear frailties and shortcomings with our season last year. We have addressed 80% of those.
Mm-hmm.
Personnel-wise, we do need somebody to be a genuine backup for Mohamed Salah.
Mm-hmm.
Ben Doak is learning his craft and his trade right now, and that's great. And he is explosive and literally, you could tell me in 2 years right now that it's like that he's the next Kylian Mbappe, and I'd be like, okay, sure, sounds good.
Yeah,
I'll buy it. Just imagining what he could be like at 19 years old.
The ceiling is there, right? The ceiling is there.
I mean, there. Maybe he is the replacement. Maybe he legitimately is the replacement for Mo Salah.
Yeah.
But we do need a left-sided center back. Period.
Yeah.
Anyway, should we continue on with the second half of this West Ham game?
Yeah, the second half of the West Ham game. So, again,
1-1.
Another one, quick out of the blocks in the second half. Darwin Nunez scores an absolutely amazing goal in the 60th minute off of a beautiful McAllister pass. You know, just the spatial awareness, the skill, the timing, everything that went into that goal, you know, to track it over your shoulder, hit it out of the air, and just drill it past the keeper into the side netting, I think, is just incredible, especially considering what, like, 2 minutes before he'd missed a sitter, you know?
Yeah.
He does kind of give me Sadio Mane vibes, right? Because I remember there were some times that I didn't feel like Mane was as consistent as, you know, he could have been at some points, where Mane would, you know, blast a ball 30 yards over the bar, but then 2 minutes later, you know, score a worldie. And it's like, come on, man, if you could have done that both times, we'd have 2 more goals, you know?
Yeah, our lives would be a lot easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. I think we would be so lucky if he turns into another Sadio Mane, to be totally honest. Because he was also an extreme talent for us.
Yeah.
And you could see, like, what it was such an incredible shift last year for us to try and figure out how to play without him.
Yeah.
Because he was such a physical presence that we don't have. Luis Diaz definitely was able to take up the mantle at running at pace at people, but his link-up play is not as good as Sadio Mane's was, and he's just physically not sitting in the box or in front of the box or able to just parry people left and right off of his hips like Mane was.
Right. I also do kind of wonder, and this is not to take anything away from Sadio Mane in any way, shape, or form, but I feel like Bobby Firmino playing that kind of like false nine just made that whole line so much better. All 3 of them, you know?
Yeah, I don't know what his goal scoring record is in Saudi Arabia, but it's pretty ridiculous, I think.
Yeah.
Like, I think he scored a hat trick in his debut.
Bobby did.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He's incredible. But not to go down too much of a road of former players, we are talking about players that currently play for us. And Darwin Nunez scored an absolute worldie. I'm glad that you pointed out the fact that he missed a sitter right before that, because I think it is something that's important to point out. Right, it can't be all sunshine and roses, because it's something he has to elevate in his game to be truly like to rank up with the strikers that will be in the annals of Liverpool history, right? Like we say Sadio Mane, Bobby Firmino, Mo Salah, you know, and then there's a whole other tier of historical players that he's like, you know, if he wants to get anywhere close to, he's going to have to start netting those sitters.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, but I also think there's a lot of kind of a hive mind, like echo chamber, to use some buzzwords, on Liverpool fans on social media about Darwin Nunez, right? Because there's a lot of the, his goal contribution isn't high enough. And I mean, he's scored 15 goals. He had, 22 to 25 goal involvements last season in his first season in the league in 43 games. That's not... I saw a stat that Darwin's goal involvements per minute are only like 8 behind Mo.
Right, but the problem is that we're not comparing him to other Liverpool players. We're comparing him to Erling Haaland, who is our direct rival and the only person getting in our way of winning the Premier League. So I hear what you're saying, and you're right, because I'm not one of those people. I think that Darwin Nunez had a great first season, and I think 15 goals from a normal 20-year-old coming from the Portuguese league is incredible, and we would snap your arm off to get it. right? And he's going to be great, and he's going to have way more than 15 goals this season, and probably more than 25 goal involvements this year. He's going to be fantastic. I'm not worried about him at all. But the problem is, why people are taking that stance and that point of view is because we are playing against a soon-to-be Ballon d'Or winning, record-setting forward that is his direct competition, and therefore our direct competition, and that who he will always be measured against.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
yeah,
it might not be fair, but it's reality.
Yeah. I also think it's kind of like a human psychology issue of we tend to the bad things are more ingrained in our mind than the positive things, right?
No, certainly. It's much easier to be annoyed about stuff.
Okay, so chugging right along. So my next notes are Gravenberch comes on in the 77th, and then Gakpo and Jota come on in the 81st, and then Jota scores in the 85th to put the game to bed.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the late-stage substitutions completely changed the face of the game as well. We came out of the second half, and we were just simply no match for them. Or they were no match for us, apologies. The levels of energy, the levels of pace, the levels of recycling the ball, winning 50-50s, it was all landing to us. We were putting them under so much pressure.
Yeah.
That it seemed like it was only a matter of time to get the second, and once Nunez did get the second, then it was like, less than 10 minutes later, we do the second round of substitutions, and just the Gakpo and Jota have the presence and the peace of mind to be able to get the ball, hold on to it. Their run, I mean, the things like, could you imagine just like Darwin Nunez running at you for 80 minutes, just constantly getting the ball, and or Luis Diaz picking up the ball in the wing and sprinting at you, and then Diogo Jota comes on, and you're supposed to be like, well, stop him. And you're like, okay. He does a completely different thing, and also my legs are jello.
Yeah. I mean,
and it worked.
That's what I love about where we're at right now, and why I feel so positive about this season and things going forward is our dynamism in the front line, right? Because you just touched on it. We have just speed demons in Luis Diaz and Darwin Nunez, and Darwin Nunez just being an absolute, agent of chaos. And then if you need to make a tactical change, you bring on Gakpo or Jota. And it's like, well, yeah, it's a whole different problem set now for a defense that's been playing between, 50 and 80 minutes. And now I have to rethink how I am playing defense against these guys. And, these are professional footballers. They can figure it out. But again, there's just the mental fatigue of having to deal with someone with the pace and physicality of like Darwin Nunez, right?
Right. Yeah, because all you're asking for, they are elite football players, right? These center backs that we're talking about is like they are the best of the best. And so, of course, they're going to be able to adapt. But you're just looking for one tiny inch of space.
Yep.
1 millisecond, right? And the thing that is really smart, it's almost like Klopp is good at his job, is that Nunez obviously creates space in behind, right? It's pushing their defensive line deeper and deeper and deeper. You can't give him enough space because he will beat you in a foot race.
Yeah.
So you drop back an extra 10 yards. And then in the 75th minute, the 80th minute, you bring on Gakpo, who drops into the false nine. And now the question becomes, wait, do I step out to him?
Yeah.
Which creates space in behind for Mo Salah and Jota. And it's just like, totally, like you were saying, totally different problem set. And so it pays off.
Yeah.
The truth is that, they frequently I hear punditry talk about like getting out of first gear or getting into second gear. There's a lot of gear talk in English football. And if that was the truth, it felt like maybe we started in neutral for the first 10 or 15 minutes, and then finally we figured out what the first gear was. And it wasn't even until the 80th minute that we were like, maybe we should go into the second gear. Mm-hmm. Because when they came on, it was just like, it's almost like we weren't playing the 4th or 5th place team at the time. It was like we were playing somebody completely different, a lower league team.
Right.
Because we just had such command and control.
Yeah.
And I just want to reiterate that I feel strongly that West Ham is a really good team, and that people continue to like doubt them. And I think that's kind of think West Ham feeling probably pretty good about how they're doing compared to some other London clubs.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on quickly here to Liverpool's 3-1 win over Leicester in the Carabao Cup.
That happened today,
That's
so at least
today.
we'll remember it.
Yeah.
That happened earlier this afternoon.
Nate got to watch the first half.
I did.
I was substitute teaching, so I got to watch the second half.
While I was
Nate was
working
working.
a podcast,
Yeah, his other podcast.
Yeah.
So why don't you give us a 90-second rundown on what the first half looked like to you?
Yeah, so for the first half, it looked like to me was we were relatively in command, but cooler heads did not prevail. The thing was, we were not patient, and we were pushing forward, we were trying to strike quickly, and because of that, it left us open at the back, and we gave up an early goal, which is common now with this team. And then throughout the rest of the first half, we were trying to play catch up. We were trying to force passes. We were trying to play. The truth is that it became a down and dirty affair, and it was like the messier, the better, and that played into Leicester's hand, I feel like. I think, I would assume, since the goals came in the second half, he finally just started to say, hey, maybe let's calm down a little bit and focus on what a game plan is versus just hyperventilating our way through this game. It seemed to be like that's where we got some benefit. But the first half I would describe is chaotic, haphazard, and sloppy Joe.
Okay. How did Curtis look at right back in the first half?
I heard Klopp in a press conference speaking very highly about his performance in right back. I was still technically at work, so bosses, please, so I was sort of like looking back and forth. I can't say that I can give a real assessment specifically to his job at the right back, but I mean, he seemed like he was all over the place like he always is.
Next question, how did Indo look in the first half?
Not great.
Really? Okay.
He didn't look great, but he didn't look terrible.
Okay.
I think the thing is he's just catching up to pace.
Yeah.
I think that he's just catching up to the pace of things. And I think that's okay. I think he's going to be great. I'm excited for him to find his stride.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I tuned in just at the beginning of the second half. I thought Indo did pretty well. He actually picked up a yellow for getting in there.
Defensive foul, right?
Yeah, he was breaking up play. He was throwing tackles in. I thought Curtis looked pretty composed at right back. Let's see. What was the first goal? Was Gakpo picks up the ball, turns, and slots it in really nicely.
Assist by Ryan Gravenberch.
Yeah, so we've got our Dutch connection there. That's nice.
First Anfield full Anfield debut. Gravenberch gets an assist, goal contribution. Not a bad start.
And then shortly after that, I was transported back in time to watching the last guy. Well, not the last guy. The other guy that wore our number 8 shirt.
Naby Keita.
The one before him. With Dominic Sloboslai, just absolute vintage Steven Gerrard, outside the box, just banger, just drills it. clips the bottom of the post. Goalie couldn't do a thing about it. And from that point on, it just felt like Leicester were trying to hold on for dear life. You know, I looked at the stats quick before we started, and their big chances created were 0. You know,
I think it's important to point out that there were 10 changes from both teams for this game.
Yeah. But another one, though, the kudos to Gerald Kwanzaa, right? This kid is, I think, playing at a level beyond his years already. And he gets the assist on Jota's third goal because he stayed forward on a set piece, picks the ball up on the right wing, drives into the box, drills it across the 6, and then Jota just deflects it with his right foot behind him, and nobody could do anything about it. And you know, that's it. You're 3-1 down against a team that is smothering you with minutes left in the game. You're done.
Yeah. I think it was a professional performance that took a while to get there. Clearly, they needed sort of a second half recalibration, and it's a well-deserved win. And on to the next.
Interesting note from punditry: the last 2 times Liverpool have played and beat Leicester in the now Carabao Cup, they made it to the final. Kind of like when we lose an early game to Napoli in the Champions League, we make it to the final.
Right.
So, you know.
Well, hopefully we can make it to the final. Hopefully we can walk away with a cup. Look, the thing is, we need a cup for this season to be a success. I think. I just genuinely believe that. I'm sorry. It's like getting 5th place in qualifying for the Champions League cannot be the acceptable outcome. We just dropped 150 million pounds on a new midfield.
Mm-hmm.
Some incredibly talented players, and And the thing is, they're just not even a team yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think we have to set our expectations to be quite high, but I do think that we have to be realistic. I think there will be a step backwards at some point in the season, and I think that has to be okay. But it doesn't mean that we should be that we shouldn't expect silverware.
Yeah. For sure.
Okay, great. I think that probably wraps it up for today. We just covered 3 casual games, not a big deal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, as we discussed in the misfire on Monday, it's just incremental improvements, right? We'll hit our stride, just like our new midfield will too, and by the end of the season, we'll be plugging away at it. We'll be a well-polished machine by then.
Exactly.
We've got, 7 months to go?
Yeah, we got plenty of time. Just as a quick exercise, I just want to present you with a quick question, Eli. This is going to be rapid fire.
Okay.
Just one question. And then be sure to leave in the comments below if you agree or disagree with Eli. I'm just curious. Okay. Pirate mustache goatee combination. Who wore it better, Darwin Nunez or Captain Jack Sparrow? Let us know.
It's absolutely Darwin Nunez.
Okay, everybody, let us know. Captain Jack Sparrow, Darwin Nunez, pirate mustache / goatee combination. Let us know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, I think that signs us off from here. Anything else?
No, that's it.